Listen, Philip, I appreciate the bonds we have. I know I can be honest with you, and if I ever need someone to pee on me, you're the first dude I'm calling. Trust me, I've heard you're really good at it. I was just wondering, Philip, do you have a song that's catchy and I'll never get bored of? You do? Oh well, let's have a listen.
Go Dino, go Dino, go! Go Dino, go Dino, go!
Philip, if I ever have a music career, I'm naming my first song after you. Hello everyone, my name's Bandit, and with that intro out of the way, let's hop into today's video, where we break down 5 ingenious moves. For ingenious move number 1, we're knocking out of the park with Sivu's home run, that occurred during the Survivor South Africa Champions Final 5 Tribal Council. For context, Sivu was mostly on the outs at the merge due to having the numbers disadvantage. After Shane was blindsided, Sivu was the next biggest threat of the group on the outs, but thanks to his relationship with Shane, he knew Shane buried an idol and uncovered it. For more context on this idol, check out my previous video where my lovely guest Flynnmaster talked about the season's idol ideology. Nonetheless, Sivu was on the bottom with Boucle, while Xavion, David and Graham were in the majority. This is worsened by the fact Graham won immunity. Now Sivu's idol needed to be played this round, but he only had one advantage. There was no way he could save both him and Boucle right. Like, for that to happen, he needed a sort of miracle or salvation. Wait. Yep, a unique twist this season since the merge phase involved the captains Cornet and Mark going on duels for the Salvation Cup. An advantage that could burn the first vote cast against the person they choose. Like the idol, this was the last time they could fight for the cup, and Mark won the duel. Back at camp, Sivu realigns with Boucle and lets her know she can guarantee her safety.
I'll play the idol for myself, and if they vote for Boucle, I told Boucle to beg for the captain's Salvation Cup today.
Okay, so the plan, I asked for salvation, ne?
That's the plan.
At Tribal, Boucle follows through with Sivu's plan and begs Mark for the Salvation Cup. In fact, when the tribe is asked who feels they need the power of salvation, Boucle is the only one to raise her hand, resulting in Mark bestowing salvation on her. This drops the majority's 3 votes to a paltry 2 that can only force a tie, meaning one of their own has to go against Boucle in a fire-making competition. The person who, already won a fire-making competition. So if the majority get cheeky and Pal votes on Boucle, Sivu's plan ensures they'll more than likely get burned. This leaves Sivu, and already stated he has an idol. Something addressed later in this video is the use of theatrics to make an idol play more impressive, and Sivu does a fantastic job.
He gets blindsided and I'm left exposed. And Precious called for me.
Well done.
I mean, people are cheering for him as he plays the idol. It doesn't get much better than that. With Sivu safe and Boucle baptized, I think that's the right term, the majority are screwed, and as a cherry on top, they all put their votes on Sivu, meaning vote after vote is negated. Despite being in the minority, Boucle and Sivu put their votes together to knock out Xavion, who was the biggest jury and challenge threat left in the game. It's also important to note the Cup of Salvation wasn't very useful in the prior 5 tribals, as the captains either guessed incorrectly or guessed correctly, but their ability to burn 1 vote was largely irrelevant. So I give extra credit to Sivu for being the only person to manipulate the benefits of the Salvation Cup to actually save someone. While Sivu doesn't win the game on the back of this move, Sivu gets Shane's vote and even takes Xavion's vote, which should have been a lock for Graham. Considering outside of this idol play, his game, no offense, wasn't the biggest standout, it shows just how one move can create a resume for an individual to almost win the game. From Final 5 idol play to Final 5 idol play, Werner, you poser, we get to the Survivor Philippines endgame. In spite of both these individuals having idols at the Final 5, they had completely different game trajectory, with Werner being the godfather almost unchallenged as he dominated the game. At the final 5, Werner let it be known he had an idol, which gets the ball rolling on his game plan. Despite not winning immunity, this essentially gives Werner individual immunity, as the last time who could play this idol was this round. Why would anybody vote for a man with a public idol who seems content on playing it for himself? I think you can tell where this is going. At Tribal, Werner's ally Jean was being targeted, but he didn't want that. Not only was Jean useful to Werner later in the game for forcing fire, but Katinka and Annalise tried to blindside him with this plan and would have been successful if it wasn't for that meddling Englishman.
I think it would be a game changer. I think it would make all of us a bit more popular with the jury to blindside Werner. But I don't know if I want to.
The next day.
She says she got a plan that upset everybody and win the jury. Is that when we get to 4, we vote you out?
So after the votes were casted, Nico asks if anyone has an idol. Werner stands to the complete surprise of nobody and plays his idol, but it's not for him. I know this isn't a unique comparison, but in San Juan del Sur, a Survivor US season that aired in 2014, Natalie in the final 5 played her idol on Jacqueline. In the same vein, Werner played his idol on Jean, but adds his own spin on things.
So today, information came to me, like normally. I heard that my closest ally started to plot against me. So I know that you're a fan, Johnny. I would like you to come to the front. And I want to give you an opportunity to play an idol for yourself.
I think there's a lot of subtle things to this speech that are also fantastic, such as Werner letting the jury know he's in charge and has been receiving information, as well as letting them know it's only because of him plus his idol that Jean is safe. This results in him blocking Annalise's 2 votes because she had an extra vote, and Katinka's vote on Jean, while leaving Jean in the dark to vote for Annalise, which undoubtedly would have been something Werner would have used to further undermine Jean's game in a final 2 had he been sitting next to her at the end. This gives Tom and Werner the sole glory in voting out Katinka, who is an underrated player that was building a revolt against Werner. I know Natalie's idol play is regarded as one of the best in Survivor, but considering Werner had to outplay an extra vote and still managed to save his ally while forcing her to vote incorrectly shows a deeper level of ingeniousness. Despite being voted out at the final 4 due to Tom betraying him, Werner still showed he's easily one of the best to never win in Survivor South Africa, and his final 5 move cements his legacy. How sweet. Well, on the topic of sweet, I got really hungry and put some chewing gum in my mouth. Thankfully, I brought another brand of candy with my good friend Gumball, so hopefully his voice can be a soother for you all. So I'm gonna hand the mic over to him while I finish this off. Ooh, minty breath.
Alright, thank you for having me. Now for this next one, we have a pretty interesting blindside here happening at the final 8 of Return of the Outcasts. Now to quickly set the stage here, we have Meryl, who, not to disappoint, had been playing a pretty good game, with her building a lot of great bonds with the post-mergers early on, even building a core alliance with Marion and Steffi known as the Full Package, and through that they formed a broader alliance called the Breakfast Club, which more or less held the numbers early on in the game. And then even at the post-swap, while she was occasionally talked about as a threat, she was able to largely hold the numbers, due in part due to the post-mergers having a majority there, while still having her allies in Marion as well as Dante. And then coming into the merge, it seemed like she was going to be in a pretty strong position to get towards the end of the game. And additionally, herself and the Full Package had accumulated a number of advantages that seemed like they could have given them even more control, with Meryl herself getting both a tribal pass, which basically acts as safety without power, allowing her to play it at tribal on someone, allowing them to get up and leave, giving them immunity but also foregoing their vote, as well as a 50-50 coin that she could use at tribal council and essentially give herself a 50-50 shot of getting immunity for that round. So really, she had a number of advantages along with a core group that could have allowed her to take control of the game. However, as the merge went on, it soon became clear to a lot of the other players just how big of a threat Meryl was. I mean, some of that was aided by Meryl's own actions, where she voted out Dante at the final 10, someone who could have been a massive shield for her moving forward, and thus leaving her exposed. But along with that, she was a bit too open with her information, and through that people knew about all her various advantages and just how big of a threat she was. And admittedly, I think Meryl herself knew how big of a threat she was, as she recognized that the votes were coming onto her at the final 9, and she literally flipped against Steffi, her own ally from the full package, and blindsided her with an idol in her pocket at the final 9. But despite going along with that move, she was still seen as a pretty big threat in her own right, and plenty of people were thinking about taking her out. However, it was still going to be a tall order with that tribal pass, where if Meryl even got a hint of a blindside coming her way, she could easily pull out that tribal pass, play for herself, and give herself immunity for another round, forcing the remaining players to turn on each other. Enter the No BS Alliance, consisting of Dino, Felix, and Phil. While they were in the minority early on in the merge, they had formed earlier on in the game, and they seemed committed to stick together at that point, and they saw just how big of a threat Meryl was. However, through that, they also recognized that there was a way around all these advantages, that being to get Meryl to use her travel pass on someone else and gain her trust. We see Dino getting to work, really working to make Meryl feel comfortable coming into this round.
This is genius level, dude. This is how advantage are meant to be used. Holy because I'll be honest with you, I haven't felt entirely safe. This protects all of us.
Now, the two of them had a pretty good relationship from earlier on in the game, where despite Dante constantly pushing for Meryl to turn on Dino in the post swap, it was through their connection that made Meryl trust Dino enough to keep him around. She figured that he wouldn't be as effective as a player as he thought he was, and through that she felt comfortable sharing with him the fact that she was considering using the travel pass on someone else, and considering she could use the travel pass for a couple more rounds after that. This was pretty big news for Dino, and so him along with the No BS Alliance really worked throughout a lot of that day to make Meryl remain comfortable enough so that she could potentially use the travel pass on Marion, which in turn would open up the door for them to blindside Meryl. Now, obviously, the other factor was the 50-50 coin, where even if Meryl played the travel pass on Marion, obviously if she still got win afterwards, she could easily play that on herself, but the main goal was to get them to use the travel pass on Marion. And crazily enough, we saw it work, where despite it seeming at points that Meryl could have suspected that there was going to be a plan against her, she went along with what the No BS Alliance told her and played the travel pass on Marion, sending Marion back to camp and leaving Meryl wide open to be taken out. And despite Tasia being on her side and making it seem like it was going to be a straightforward Killarney vote, we see the No BS Alliance pull in both Killarney and Shane to flip the game on Meryl, sending her out after flushing her travel pass and with her still having the 50-50 coin in her pocket. It's a pretty impressive move and definitely one of the crazier moves of the season. Now, I do think Meryl still made some mistakes that caused her to be as big of a target as she was. However, the fact that the No BS Alliance was able to counter a lot of her advantages that made her such a big threat to begin with is such an impressive move and a big reason why this move is here on this list. Thank you so much for having me in your video, and I'll turn it back to you.
And if you're like Werner, hungry for more Survivor content, Gumball has a lot of Survivor related videos for you to chow down on. I cooked up his channel link in the description for you if you want to check it out. Next, number 4, we're going into the pre-merge of Maldives, a pretty underrated season in the Survivor South Africa franchise. This challenge involved contestants having to grab onto a piece of rope within their individual boundaries and just hang on. If the contestants touched the ground either by falling off or their portion of rope gaining too much slack, then they were out. Now, there were several ways for one to approach this challenge. You could do a brute dead hang, you could wrap your hands or legs around the rope, you could hug it, or oh Sean, you have an idea. Go ahead buddy, tell us your strategy.
Yeah.
You put that up around your neck.
Yeah, maybe don't do that. Instead, we're going with another idea from someone without a death wish, Vanessa. Vanessa in this challenge quickly hops onto the rope, and unlike everyone else who awkwardly hangs, she sits down like the rope is a swing. This immediately provides her with the most stable position, as her holding onto the rope provides 2 contact points to support her sitting position, ensuring she shouldn't fall. So while everyone is struggling, Vanessa is relaxing and enjoying the challenge. And this isn't only me saying this, Nico even calls her out on it in the challenge.
Vanessa looking very comfortable in her seated position.
this point, it looks like the best way to be.
The issue is people from her side begin dropping out, resulting in her rope gaining more slack as it drops lower towards the ground. Then Nico forces a tribe member to drop out as the challenge hits the 2-hour mark, essentially forcing Vanessa to drop out, as if anyone else did, she was at risk of touching the ground, resulting in 2 people eliminated in one go. Had this been an individual challenge, Vanessa probably wins this, as she even states herself in confessionals she was extremely comfortable. Now, I'll be honest, Vanessa's tribe eventually loses the challenge several hours later, and you might wonder how the opposing tribe beat her sitting strategy, and here's the answer. They didn't. Vanessa's strategy was so good that the opposing tribe eventually just decided to copy her by sitting on their rope. So the challenge turned into an eventual 6+ hour standoff, or sit-off rather, which you can tell production didn't account for. Clearly, they expected everyone to hang, making the challenge far shorter due to the discomfort the position provides. It's only after the 6-hour mark, Nico tells them if neither tribe quits, they'll be competing at the challenge site in the dark, with the members of each tribe having to sleep on the site as well, without shelter. An obvious last-minute ultimatum. So Vanessa's tribe drop out, mainly because of Simon, who was injured, and so they lose the challenge, but Vanessa was still a winner in our hearts. She devised a move so ingenious that it nearly broke the challenge, and the only way her opposition could beat her was by stealing the strategy. She then goes on to receive Roxy's idol at Tribal, allowing her to idol out Cindy in the same episode. What a badass. Finally, on this list... Sorry, do you folks hear something? Oh god. Yes, at number 5, we're ranting about the ingenious move used in Survivor South Africa's most recent season, Return of the Outcasts. This was a blindfold challenge, and if you've been a long-time viewer of the channel, you know I made a literal guide on how to win this challenge, and many of the points in that video were demonstrated here. For me, there were 2 clear challenge hacks. First was Shane, who initially gets his tribe to call out for Dino. This is great because it muffles the opposing caller, Thariso, meaning the blindfolded individual she's trying to lead struggled to hear her. You don't have to be a genius to know if you're one person having to shout over an entire tribe, it's not going to go well. Teresa even gets frustrated, meaning even if Tony could make her out, Teresa was only telling her half sentences before screaming at the other tribe to be quiet. Teresa herself even admits she could have done the puzzle first if not distracted at the calling stage.
And the worst part of it, I mean, the 2 of you, we could have done that in like less than 20 seconds had they not. No. That's how close you were.
Shane's chant is also a great morale boost for Dino. As you can imagine, having several individuals telling you you're amazing makes you feel great, and I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind my own chant, you know, and being told by an entire group of people how amazing and smart I am. I'm not saying I'm jealous or anything, but, you know, where was I again? But Dino isn't blindfolded for the puzzle portion and only needs sight. The fact he can't hear isn't as integral to him as the likes of Tony. And for anyone calling this a fluke, this strategy of chaotically screaming happened in Island of the Idols, in my opinion, making the Lyro tribe lose the challenge, as the blindfolded individuals were disorientated and couldn't hear Missy over the Vokais tribe screaming, and Tommy's what I can only assume to be mating call. But Dino adds another factor into the challenge by murmuring to Tony to come towards his direction, adding to the sound distraction. It forces Tony to go further in the wrong direction and forces Thariso to call out more directions to get Tony back on track. Tony then reveals at camp she believed it was Tejon initially that was guiding her, which shows the ingenious way Dino murmured to better sell he was a tribe mate of Tony. Overall, it was a phenomenal use by Shane and Dino to abuse the fact that the opposing tribe were blindfolded and ultimately gave them the win. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, subscribe. Check out my good buddy Gumball with his YouTube channel in the description, and subscribe to him as well because I'll be featuring on his channel around the time this video goes out. But have a great day and peace!